Imagine stepping into a world where the air smells of warm oil and crushed herbs, where water is precious and every rinse has meaning. No soap on a shelf, no minty toothpaste waiting by a sink, no soft paper tucked away in a cabinet. Just people, like us, trying to feel clean and whole in a world that often felt dusty, sweaty, and alive. That is where our story begins. Picture a quiet morning by the Nile. The sun rises honey gold over reed beds, and a woman kneels by a basin carved from alabaster. She is Egyptian, her hair shaved close to keep lice away, her skin smooth with a thin layer of perfumed wax that melts slowly as the day warms. Cleanliness is not just comfort for her, it is devotion. Priests shave every day to honor the gods and avoid impurity. The wealthy crush frankincense and myrrh, warming the resin with oil so it lingers on the skin like a blessing. And when their teeth ache, they reach for a gritty paste made from powdered eggshells, ashes, and crushed animal parts. It is harsh, yes, but it is medicine to them. A healer reads from a scroll and advises a rinse made from dried iris and honey, a sweet medicine meant to calm angry gums. Even in this world of incense and ritual, there is tenderness in these small acts of care. Now follow the road west, where the clatter of sandals echoes through stone streets and steam breathes from grand halls. In Rome, the bathhouse is the heartbeat of the day. People arrive with friends and leave with new ideas. They step from warm rooms to hot rooms and then into cool pools, letting the water teach their bodies to relax. Oil is smeared across the skin, then scraped away with a curved tool called a strigil. Sweat and dust slide off in silky ribbons. The sound is soft, like a whisper. The baths smell faintly of olive and smoke, and the air hums with conversations about politics, poetry, and family news. Even the toilets are shared, long benches of carved stone where people sit side by side as if sharing a table. A sponge fixed to a stick waits in a bucket of water and vinegar. It is communal, even intimate in a way that might feel surprising today. Behind the scenes, another world of cleanliness hums along. Laundry workers gather jars of human urine from public corners because it has the power to bleach. An emperor even taxes it, turning waste into coin. It sounds strange to us, but to them, it is practical, almost ingenious. Those bright white togas do not stay bright on their own. Travel farther, across deserts and mountains, into the lands where silk and spices pass from hand to hand. In China, craftspeople tie coarse boar bristles to slender bamboo and create something gentle enough to clean a smile. Imagine running that brush over your teeth for the first time and feeling the novelty and relief of it. In the era of the Tang, a small soap called a bath bean is pressed from animal enzymes and flour, sometimes scented with herbs. It dissolves in the palm and releases a clean fragrance as the body is scrubbed. There is joy in the foam, simple and real. Not every tradition celebrates washing in the same way. Among the peoples of the steppe, the wind is sharp and baths are rare. Some believe that strong smells guard the soul, and that water used carelessly might invite illness. A Roman visitor steps into a smoky hall and writes home of sour milk and horses, but in that same hall there is a different understanding of purity and protection. Cleanliness is not only water and soap, it is safety, order, ritual, and sometimes even defiance. Look south, and you find an even older rhythm. In the cities of the Indus Valley, long before Christ, streets line up neatly, drains carry away waste with quiet efficiency, and many homes have small rooms for washing. Imagine the thoughtfulness of that planning, the way it must have changed daily life. Water arrives where it is needed, then disappears down carefully built channels. It feels modern, but it is ancient wisdom at work. In Greek gymnasiums, athletes gleam with olive oil before training. A helper massages their muscles, then scrapes away grit and sweat. The body is honored, not only for strength, but for the discipline needed to keep it whole. Afterward, they share simple food and stories. Cleanliness becomes a bridge between effort and rest. Across the Mediterranean, people rub salt and natron on their skin to keep odors at bay. sprinkle petals in basins, and tie sachets of herbs to hang near beds. In markets, tooth powders clink in ceramic jars. Some are made of crushed shells or bones, sharp and sandy on the tongue, yet strangely refreshing after a long day. Others prefer chewing sticks, frayed at the ends, that polish teeth and perfume the breath with the scent of licorice or mint. A grandmother shows a child how to soften the fibers. The lesson is quiet, passed from hand to hand. Water, of course, is not always pure. A Roman aqueduct arcs across a valley like a stone ribbon, bringing city life its shine. But the pipes that carry the water sometimes carry hidden harm. People sense something is wrong long before anyone can explain why. They move cisterns, change sources, listen to healers, and keep testing what the world will allow. Throughout the ancient world, people are always adjusting, always learning. And here is a gentle curiosity that lingers in the mind. In some royal courts in China after Christ, finely made paper appears not as something to write on, but as something reserved for the most private needs. The texture is soft and perfumed. Elsewhere, in quieter households, moss, leaves, and smooth shards of pottery are kept near the latrine. Far to the north, people bathe once a week in hot water and brush their hair bright and neat. Their neighbors notice and comment, grateful and surprised. Cleanliness becomes a kind of reputation, a character in the story of a people. Through it all, these habits tell us what mattered most. Oil and ash, perfume and vinegar, steam and stone. Some practices feel familiar, others feel distant, but every one of them speaks of care. Care for the body, care for the community, care for the spirit. The bathhouse is not only an errand. The mouthwash is not only a cure. The razor is not only a tool. These are rituals that bind people together. They are the rhythm of mornings and evenings, of festivals and recoveries, of grief and celebration. So when you pick up your soap tonight, take a breath and think of that Egyptian dawn, the Roman steam, the soft scrape of a brush tied with boar bristles, the hush of an ancient drain carrying water away. Cleanliness has always been more than removing dirt. It is a small promise we make to ourselves and to one another. A promise to honor the day, to meet the world with freshness and care, and to keep learning what it means to be well. If this journey stirred your curiosity, add your voice. Share a thought about the ritual you value most, the smell or sound that makes you feel renewed. If you love history the way we do, like this video, share it with a friend, and subscribe to Legacy of Empires. There are so many more quiet wonders waiting just beyond the next doorway. Picture this. The sun rises over the Nile, casting golden light across limestone temples where priests begin their most sacred ritual. But it's not prayer that starts their day. It's a razor. Every morning, without fail, these holy men would shave every hair from their bodies, from head to toe, believing that even a single strand could make them impure in the eyes of their gods. This wasn't vanity. This was divine law. The ancient Egyptians understood something profound. Cleanliness wasn't just about comfort or appearance. It was about spiritual connection, about being worthy to stand before deities like Ra and Isis. In their world, dirt didn't just make you uncomfortable, it made you unholy. Walk through the bustling markets of Memphis or Thebes, and you'd be overwhelmed by the most intoxicating fragrances. Wealthy Egyptians didn't just wear perfume, they were walking clouds of frankincense and myrrh. These precious resins, worth more than gold, were rubbed into their skin daily. Women would place cones of scented fat on their heads during banquets, letting the fragrant oils slowly melt and trickle down their faces and bodies as the evening progressed. But here's where Egyptian ingenuity truly shines. They invented the world's first toothpaste. Now, before you get too excited, this wasn't the minty fresh paste we know today. Egyptian toothpaste was a gritty, abrasive mixture that would make your modern dentist cringe. They ground up ox hooves, yes, actual hooves, mixed them with ashes from burned plants, and added powdered eggshells for that extra scrubbing power. Can you imagine the texture? The taste? Yet this revolutionary invention showed something remarkable about Egyptian society. They cared deeply about oral hygiene, understanding the connection between clean teeth and good health thousands of years before modern science caught up. The wealthy had servants who would use chewed sticks, the world's first toothbrushes, to apply this paste and scrub their master's teeth. The poor made do with salt, ground mint, and sometimes just clean sand. Everyone, regardless of social class, recognized that a clean mouth was essential for both health and social acceptance. Here's a fascinating detail that shows just how advanced Egyptian medicine was. The Ebers Papyrus, one of the oldest medical texts in the world from around 1550 before Christ, contains a recipe for mouthwash that sounds almost modern. They mixed dried iris flowers with honey to create a sweet-tasting rinse that actually fought gum disease. The iris flowers contained natural antibacterial compounds, while honey's antimicrobial properties helped heal infected gums. Egyptian women pioneered cosmetics not just for beauty, but for health. They lined their eyes with kohl made from ground galena, a lead-based mineral that, surprisingly, helped prevent eye infections in the dusty, sandy environment along the Nile. The dark lines weren't just stunning to look at. They were practical medicine disguised as fashion. The Nile itself played a crucial role in Egyptian hygiene. Unlike many ancient civilizations that feared water, Egyptians embraced it. They built elaborate bathing chambers in their homes, complete with limestone tubs and drainage systems. The wealthy would bathe daily using natron, a naturally occurring salt, as soap, followed by applications of precious oils to protect their skin from the harsh desert climate. Even death couldn't stop Egyptian dedication to cleanliness. The mummification process was essentially the ultimate hygiene ritual, ensuring that the deceased would be perfectly clean and preserved for their journey to the afterlife. Every organ was carefully removed, cleaned, and either preserved separately or replaced with scented materials. What makes the Egyptian approach to hygiene so remarkable isn't just their innovations. It's their understanding that cleanliness was deeply connected to dignity, health, and spiritual well-being. They weren't just washing dirt away. They were preparing themselves to be worthy of the gods, worthy of society, and worthy of eternal life. This divine approach to cleanliness would influence civilizations for thousands of years, setting a standard that even the mighty Romans would admire and adopt. In ancient Egypt, being clean wasn't just about personal comfort. It was about being truly human in the eyes of both mortals and immortals alike. Step into ancient Rome at midday, and you'll hear a sound that echoes through every neighborhood, the bell announcing that the public baths are open. Suddenly, the streets come alive as citizens from every walk of life abandon their work and head toward the thermae, those magnificent bath complexes that were so much more than places to get clean. Imagine walking through the towering entrance of the baths of Caracalla, where 1,600 people could bathe at once. The sheer scale would take your breath away, soaring ceilings decorated with brilliant mosaics, marble columns that gleam like jewels, and the constant sound of flowing water creating a symphony of relaxation. This wasn't just a bathroom. This was a temple dedicated to the art of living well. The Roman bathing ritual was like a carefully choreographed dance. First, you'd enter the apoditerium, the changing room, where slaves would guard your clothes while you prepared for the journey ahead. Then came the tepidarium, a warm room designed to prepare your body for what was coming next. Here, conversations would begin, politics, business, gossip, as Romans believed that a relaxed body led to a relaxed tongue. Next, the caldarium awaited, a steamy hot room that would make modern saunas seem mild by comparison. Romans would sit in this intense heat until sweat poured from every pore, believing they were literally purging impurities from their souls as well as their skin. But here's where things get interesting. They didn't have soap as we know it. Instead, they used olive oil. Slaves would massage precious oils into their master's skin, working it deep into every muscle. Then came the most fascinating part, the strigil. Picture a curved bronze scraper, almost like a question mark made of metal. After the oil had mixed with sweat and dirt, Romans would scrape their entire bodies with these tools, literally peeling away layers of grime in long, satisfying strips. The wealthy would have personal slaves called capsarii to perform this service, but even common citizens could hire bath attendants for a few coins. The sound of dozens of strigils scraping against skin created a rhythmic percussion that filled the caldarium like a strange, ancient music. But the most shocking aspect of Roman bath culture happened in the latrines, their communal toilets. Picture this: long marble benches with holes cut into them, where dozens of Romans would sit side by side, conducting business in every sense of the word. They'd discuss politics, make deals, share news, all while attending to nature's call as naturally as if they were sitting in a modern coffee shop. And toilet paper? That didn't exist. Instead, they used a communal sponge attached to a stick called a tersorium. After use, it was rinsed in a channel of flowing water and left for the next person. The idea of germs and bacterial transmission was completely unknown to them. They simply saw it as practical and economical. Here's where Roman ingenuity becomes both impressive and revolting. The fullers, Rome's laundry workers, discovered that human urine was incredibly effective at cleaning and bleaching white togas. The ammonia in aged urine worked better than any other cleaning agent they had. So they set up collection points throughout the city, public urinals where citizens would contribute to what became known as the golden stream of commerce. Emperor Vespasian saw opportunity where others saw waste. He placed a tax on urine collection, creating one of history's strangest revenue streams. When his son Titus complained about this undignified tax, Vespasian held a gold coin to his nose and asked if it smelled. When Titus said no, the emperor replied with words that became famous: "Money has no odor." The Latin phrase pecunia non olet is still used today to describe profit from questionable sources. The social dynamics of Roman baths revealed the empire's complex relationship with class and status. While anyone could enter for a small fee, the experience varied dramatically based on wealth. The rich bathed in the morning hours when the water was freshest and the crowd smaller. They brought entourages of slaves to attend to every need, one to carry oils, another to wield the strigil, a third to provide towels and fresh clothes. Common citizens bathed in the afternoon when the facilities were most crowded and the water less pristine. But remarkably, slave and senator might find themselves sitting naked in the same pool, their social distinctions temporarily dissolved in the warm waters. These moments of equality were rare in Roman society, making the baths a unique space where humanity trumped hierarchy. The frigidarium provided the grand finale, a plunge into cold water that would shock the system and close the pores. Romans believed this contrast between hot and cold was essential for health, and modern science suggests they weren't wrong about the circulatory benefits. Bath complexes also housed libraries, gardens, restaurants, and even brothels. You could spend an entire day in a thermae, emerging not just clean, but entertained, fed, educated, and socially connected. These weren't just places to bathe, they were the beating heart of Roman social life. The decline of Roman bathing culture marked more than just changing hygiene habits. As the empire crumbled and Christianity spread, the communal nudity and sensual pleasures of the baths were increasingly seen as immoral. The magnificent thermae fell into ruin, and with them died a sophisticated understanding of public health and social wellness that wouldn't be matched again for over 1,000 years. When you think about Roman baths today, remember this: they represent humanity's first great experiment in public wellness, where cleanliness, health, and community came together under soaring vaulted ceilings. In those steamy rooms filled with laughter, conversation, and the scrape of bronze on skin, an empire didn't just wash away its dirt, it washed away the barriers between human souls. Are you fascinated by this ancient legacy? Comment your thoughts, like the video, share it with fellow history lovers, and subscribe to Legacy of Empires for more epic journeys. Travel eastward along the ancient Silk Road, past towering mountains and endless deserts, and you'll discover a world where hygiene became an art form in ways the West had never imagined. In the bustling cities of Tang Dynasty China, around 600 years before Christ, something remarkable was happening in the morning routines of wealthy merchants and scholars. Picture a Chinese nobleman beginning his day in the imperial capital of Chang'an. He reaches for what looks like a small bamboo stick, but this isn't just any stick. It's crowned with carefully selected boar bristles, creating the world's first recognizable toothbrush. The Chinese had discovered that wild boar hair had just the right stiffness and flexibility to clean teeth effectively without damaging the gums. These early toothbrushes weren't crude tools either. Skilled craftsmen would select the finest bamboo, carve intricate handles, and meticulously attach bristles with silk thread. The wealthy would own multiple brushes, some for daily use and others decorated with gold inlay for special occasions. It was a revolution in oral care that wouldn't reach Europe for another 1,000 years. But the Chinese didn't stop at teeth. During the Tang Dynasty, around the 7th century after Christ, they created something called bath beans, fragrant soap balls that would make Roman olive oil seem primitive by comparison. These weren't ordinary soap either. Chinese alchemists discovered that pig pancreas, when ground up and mixed with flour and fragrant oils, created a cleansing agent that was both effective and luxurious. Imagine opening a silk pouch to reveal these precious bath beans, small, round, and infused with jasmine, chrysanthemum, or sandalwood. The wealthy would dissolve them in heated water, creating a fragrant, creamy bath that left skin soft and perfumed. Street vendors would sell simpler versions made with rice flour and local herbs, making cleanliness accessible even to common farmers and artisans. Chinese bathhouses were temples of relaxation where the concept of hygiene merged with philosophy and medicine. Following principles of traditional Chinese medicine, they believed that cleanliness wasn't just about removing dirt, it was about balancing the body's energies. Hot baths were thought to open meridians and allow life force to flow freely through the body. The Chinese also pioneered the use of toilet paper, creating sheets from rice straw and other soft fibers as early as the 2nd century after Christ. While Romans were still sharing sponges on sticks, Chinese emperors were using paper so fine and soft it rivaled modern tissues. The imperial toilet paper was even perfumed and decorated with intricate patterns. In Japan, bathing became a spiritual ritual deeply connected to Shinto beliefs about purity and pollution. The Japanese developed elaborate purification ceremonies where cleanliness was literally about washing away spiritual impurities. Public bathhouses called sento became centers of community life, where people would gather not just to bathe, but to share news, conduct business, and strengthen social bonds. But now, let's journey to a completely different world, one that would shock and horrify these clean-loving Eastern civilizations. Far to the west, across the steppes of Central Asia, rode the Huns, nomadic warriors whose approach to hygiene was the complete opposite of everything we've discussed. The Huns believed that bad smells were actually protective. In their worldview, evil spirits were attracted to pleasant scents and repelled by foul odors. So they deliberately avoided bathing, believing that their natural musk would keep supernatural dangers at bay. Warriors would go months without washing, seeing their accumulated grime as a badge of spiritual protection. When Roman ambassadors traveled to meet Attila the Hun in the 5th century after Christ, they were completely unprepared for what awaited them. These diplomats, accustomed to the perfumed splendor of Roman baths, found themselves in a world that assaulted their senses from the moment they arrived. One ambassador wrote detailed accounts of entering Attila's great wooden hall. The air was thick with what he described as the stench of horses and fermented milk, mixed with unwashed human bodies and smoke from cooking fires. The Huns drank fermented mare's milk called arog, which created its own distinctive odor that permeated everything, clothing, hair, even the wooden walls of their dwellings. But here's what's fascinating. This wasn't ignorance or laziness. The Huns had a sophisticated understanding of their environment and survival needs. Living constantly on horseback, moving with the seasons, they couldn't afford the luxury of elaborate bathing rituals. Their smell actually served practical purposes. It helped them blend with their horses and the natural oils on their skin provided protection against harsh weather. The contrast couldn't have been more dramatic. While Chinese nobles were delicately scrubbing with boar bristle brushes and dissolving fragrant bath beans in heated pools, Han warriors were deliberately cultivating their natural aroma as spiritual armor. While Japanese monks were purifying themselves in sacred springs, Han shamans were blessing their people's protective stench. This created incredible culture shock along the Silk Road trading routes. Chinese merchants, with their perfumed silks and delicate hygiene rituals, would encounter Han traders whose very presence would clear the air around market stalls. Yet business continued, because each group had something the other desperately needed. The Huns weren't unique in this approach either. Many nomadic cultures developed similar beliefs about the protective power of natural body odors. Some Mongol tribes would rub themselves with fermented butter and sheep fat, creating an aromatic shield they believed would confuse evil spirits and enemy scouts alike. What's remarkable is how geography and lifestyle shaped such dramatically different approaches to cleanliness. The Chinese, with their stable cities, abundant water, and sophisticated trade networks, could afford to make hygiene an art form. The Huns, constantly moving across harsh landscapes with limited resources, turned their natural state into a survival strategy. These contrasts remind us that hygiene has never been just about cleanliness. It's always been about culture, survival, spirituality, and identity. Whether you were scrubbing with a boar bristle brush in a perfumed Chinese bathhouse, or riding the steps protected by your own natural musk, you were following a hygiene philosophy perfectly adapted to your world. The meeting of these different worlds along the Silk Road created some of history's most memorable cultural exchanges, and probably some very memorable smells as well. As we reach the end of our journey through the bathing halls of history, pause for a moment and consider the soap in your bathroom, the toothbrush by your sink, the simple act of washing your hands. These everyday rituals carry within them thousands of years of human innovation, spiritual belief, and social evolution. We are the inheritors of a legacy that stretches from Egyptian temple priests to Roman senators, from Chinese scholars to nomadic warriors. What strikes me most about this exploration isn't just the fascinating details, though crushed ox hooves in toothpaste and urine taxes certainly grab attention. It's the profound realization that cleanliness has never been simply about removing dirt. Throughout history, every civilization has understood something we sometimes forget in our modern rush. How we clean ourselves reveals who we are, what we value, and how we see our place in the world. Think about the Egyptian priest, standing in the pre-dawn darkness, carefully shaving every hair from his body. For him, this wasn't vanity. It was preparation for communion with the divine. Every stroke of the razor was an act of devotion, a declaration that he was worthy to stand before gods who demanded absolute purity. His morning ritual connected him to something greater than himself, transforming a simple act of grooming into a sacred ceremony. Now consider the Roman citizen, naked and laughing in the caldarium, sharing gossip while a slave scraped oil and sweat from his back with a bronze strigil. For Romans, cleanliness was intensely social. The baths weren't just places to get clean, they were the beating heart of civic life, where senators and slaves could find themselves soaking in the same warm pools, their social differences temporarily dissolved in the healing waters. Picture the Chinese merchant, delicately brushing his teeth with boar bristles while fragrant bath beans dissolved in his private bath. His approach to hygiene was artistic, philosophical, an expression of harmony between body and spirit, a daily ritual that balanced the energies flowing through his being according to ancient wisdom, passed down through generations. And then there's the Hun warrior, deliberately avoiding the bath, believing his natural scent would protect him from evil spirits on the endless steppes. His relationship with cleanliness was about survival and spiritual protection, a completely different but equally valid understanding of how the human body should interact with the world. Each of these approaches tells us something profound about human nature. We don't just clean our bodies, we express our deepest beliefs about divinity, community, art, and survival, through these intimate daily rituals. The way a society bathes reveals its soul. But here's what's truly fascinating. Despite all our technological advances, despite our antibacterial soaps and electric toothbrushes and endless array of beauty products, we're still wrestling with the same fundamental questions our ancestors faced. What does it mean to be clean? How much of hygiene is about health, and how much is about status? When does cleanliness become obsession? How do we balance individual needs with community resources? Consider our modern rituals with fresh eyes. We spend billions on products promising to make us smell like mountain springs or ocean breezes. Isn't this just a more sophisticated version of Egyptian frankincense and myrrh? We debate whether antibacterial soaps are making us too clean, potentially weakening our immune systems. Would a Roman, comfortable with his communal sponge, find this ironic? We create elaborate spa experiences that promise to purify our souls as well as our skin. How different is this from Chinese bathhouses where cleanliness balanced life energy? Our ancestors would find some of our practices utterly bewildering. Imagine explaining to an Egyptian priest why we wash our hair every day, stripping away natural oils only to replace them with artificial conditioners. Picture a Roman senator's confusion at our individual bathroom stalls. Why would anyone want to handle such personal matters in isolation? Show a Chinese scholar our antibacterial hand sanitizer, and he might wonder why we're so afraid of the natural world our bodies were designed to inhabit. Yet they might also recognize themselves in our rituals. The morning shower that prepares us for the day ahead echoes the Egyptian priest's dawn purification. Our spa days with friends mirror the social bonding of Roman baths. Our elaborate skincare routines reflect the Chinese understanding that caring for our bodies is a form of self-respect and harmony. What's beautiful is that hygiene remains one of humanity's most personal yet universal experiences. Across cultures, across centuries, we've all faced the same morning question: how do I prepare myself to meet the world today? And the answers we've found, whether involving crushed eggshells or boar bristles, olive oil or fermented butter, reflect our deepest values about dignity, community, spirituality, and what it means to be human. The thread that connects all these practices isn't just the pursuit of cleanliness, it's the pursuit of belonging. The Egyptian priest belonged to his gods. The Roman citizen belonged to his community. The Chinese scholar belonged to the natural order. The Hun warrior belonged to his tribe and the protective spirits of the steppe. Each used hygiene as a way of affirming their place in their world. Perhaps that's the most profound lesson from our journey through ancient bathhouses and sacred rivers. Cleanliness isn't really about dirt. It's about identity. It's about answering the fundamental human question: who am I and where do I belong? So tonight, when you brush your teeth with your modern toothbrush, remember the Chinese craftsman who first attached boar bristles to bamboo. When you step into your shower, think of the Egyptian noble anointing himself with precious oils. When you wash your hands, consider the Roman fuller collecting urine to clean togas, finding dignity in the most humble work. And ask yourself, what would future historians make of our hygiene rituals? Would they find our obsession with antibacterial everything as strange as we find Roman communal sponges? Would our elaborate beauty routines seem as exotic to them as Egyptian coal seems to us? Most importantly, what does your own relationship with cleanliness say about you? What values are you expressing when you choose certain products, follow certain routines, spend certain amounts of time and money on hygiene? You're not just washing away dirt. You're participating in one of humanity's oldest and most revealing traditions. In the end, the philosophy of purity isn't about being clean, it's about being human. It's about the beautiful eternal dance between who we are and who we aspire to be, played out every single day in the most intimate and universal of human rituals. We are all, in our own way, still those ancient people standing at the water's edge, preparing to meet whatever gods, communities, or adventures await us. The soap may have changed, but the soul of the ritual remains the same. And that's something worth celebrating. something worth remembering, and something worth passing on to future generations who will undoubtedly find their own beautiful and bizarre ways to answer that timeless question. What does it mean to be truly clean? What lessons can we draw from this ancient tradition? Tell us in the comments, and don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to Legacy of Empires for more untold stories of the ancient world.